I want to talk to you about unquenchable fire, okay? And I'm not talking about hellfire, brimstone, and beat you over the head with a Bible preaching. I'm talking about Jesus, whom John said would come to baptize us or completely immerse us with the Holy Spirit and fire. I believe that this fire is an unquenchable fire, and I believe that this fire has two purposes specifically for the believer. I believe we can read about it in Matthew chapter 3. We also read about it in Acts chapter 2. And I believe that Acts chapter 2 and Matthew chapter 3 are prophetic declarations of what God does in the believer's heart before they can be set ablaze for Him, to be the people He's called them to be, to shine for Him the way He's called for them to be shining, and also so that they can do what they've been called to do for His kingdom. So what do we have here? When we look at Jesus encountering John the Baptist, John says, I'm not worthy to untie his sandals. One comes after me who will baptize people with not just water, but with the Holy Spirit and fire to burn up the chaff. Now, if you look up that word, that chaff is simply something that does not need to be there. You have what's seed, and something that can be either sown or something that can be turned into food, which that can preach in itself. And you have the chaff, which is the undesirable things that can't be used as seed or as food. And John says, listen, he's going to come to baptize you with Holy Spirit and fire to burn up the chaff. So when Jesus comes to baptize us, completely immerse us into fire, it is to burn up everything that should not be there, everything that is not of spiritual value, everything that clogs up, everything that hinders, everything that is not of nutritional, spiritual food. He wants to burn out so that there can be new growth and so that He can propel us to that new place. Well, what do I mean by new growth? Listen, if you look at it physically, a lot of times in the Bible when Jesus did parables, He preached and He taught using what they understood, all right? Planting, farming, fishing. So let me come at it from this way. A lot of times in today's world, people will burn off fields or they'll burn off land so that the undergrowth can die off and there can be new growth, new fruit, and a better habitat. And essentially this is what happens when we are baptized with the Holy Spirit and fire, is that all the undesirable things that's in our heart and in our life are burned up so that there can be new growth and new fruit and a better environment for the Spirit of the Lord to come and dwell in us and have a habitat inside of us to flow in us and through us to touch other people. This is the initial, I believe, thing that happens when we are baptized into the Holy Spirit, is that we're baptized with the Holy Spirit and fire. And then Acts 2 says boldness, all right, that there was a power that came whenever they were baptized in the Holy Spirit and fire. What happened in the upper room? Acts chapter 2, it said that a tongue of fire came down, separated, rested on each one of them. They all began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave utterance. And then after that, it says they went out in power, and thousands were added to the church daily. This is what I want to point out. They went out in power. Have you ever been around a fire? It's hot. It's also attractive because it causes those who are cold to come close. How are we supposed to attract those who are cold to God if we're never on fire for God? I want to encourage you today. If you're not on fire for Him, you can be. If you have not been baptized in the Holy Spirit and fire, you can be. I believe every believer needs this. I believe it coincides when Jesus is talking about shining for Him, because back then they didn't have electricity. You had to have a fire burning in some type of lamp or urn so that you could have a light shining. And also, this was a way to receive what you needed to receive spiritually. What happened after the upper room experience? The church exploded and they had the power they needed as they were being executed, as they were being exiled, as the church was on the run. The church was also growing because they had been empowered by Holy Spirit. So let me encourage you today, if you do not have what you need, if you're not on fire for Him, if you're not burning for Him, if you don't feel like you're shining for Him, if you haven't been baptized into the Holy Spirit, simply ask Jesus to do it, because He is the one who baptizes in Holy Spirit and fire. Just say, Lord, I want everything you have for me, nothing less, nothing more, just everything you have for me and prepare your heart to allow Him to do an amazing work in your life. I love you guys. Be encouraged. Be blessed. Listen to the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next time at meetingplace.tv.